Okay, in the interest of time, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Critical Issues Summit webinar. My name is Jessie Wachter. I'm a global program advisor with Rustic Pathways. I've worked with the company for about 10 years now, and I've run programs all around the world. So I am here to help students and families find their best fit program. Always happy to answer any questions. We'll hopefully get to all your questions throughout this presentation. But if you do have questions about specific programs or something afterwards, you're always welcome to give us a call and we can walk through those and help compare and contrast. During this webinar, we will talk a little bit about who Rustic Pathways is and what our programs are all about. We will talk about our Unwrapped Rustic holiday promotion that we've got running right now. We have the Rustic Pathways Critical Issues Summit, which I'm sure you're all here to get to learn more about. We will talk about the entire 2-week itinerary, dive into that a little bit. The Social Innovation Design Challenge, which is super exciting. Our scholarship program specifically for our Critical Issues program and summit. And then I will talk a little bit about how to enroll, and we will get to your questions. So we will, like I said, have some time at the end of the presentation to get to your questions and answers. We will do that live on the presentation. You're always welcome, and please do type them in as we go through. If I don't get to your question in the middle of the presentation, we will have that time at the end to answer your questions. And I did forget to introduce our featured speaker tonight, who is Erin Murphy. She's our Student Impact Director, and I'll have her introduce herself here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Erin Murphy. I'm the Director of Student Impact at Rustic, which is the best job at Rustic, in my opinion. I live in Washington, D.C. I'm currently in a classroom of a school where I just gave a presentation. Today is my 5th anniversary, exactly, of working at Rustic. I'm really excited to be here with you and tell you about the Critical Issues Summit, which is one of the most exciting things that I've had the chance to work on while at Rustic.
Awesome, congratulations, Erin. I didn't even realize that. So with Rustic Pathways, we've been in operation for more than 36 years now. We now operate in about 20 different countries. We have about 100 different programs around the world for ages 12 to 22. So we do have middle school programs as well as college, and our high school programs, both spring break and summer, and our gap year programs. So we kind of have something for everyone of all of our students, except for the little elementary takes. We do see ourselves as the intersection of education, travel, and philanthropy. So this is a really pivotal time in students' lives, and about 75 to 80% of our programs have some sort of service element to them. So this is a really important part of our programming at Rustic Pathways. A little just plug right now, we are running a promotion right now. It's Unwrapped Rustic, and during the holidays, whether you're in the middle of Hanukkah right now or you're getting ready for Christmas, we think the best gift you could possibly give is the gift of an experience, and travel is, such an amazing experience for students, again, at this time of their lives. So with that, we would love to have you not only give the gift of travel, but give something to sort of represent the trip that they're going to be looking forward to, either under the menorah, under the tree, or however you'd like to present it. And so you can visit rusticpathways.com/unwrap and find out more details there. You'll get a special limited edition hoodie to put under the tree or the menorah to celebrate the holidays and to get the student excited for their trip that they're coming, that they'll have coming up in the spring or the summer. So that's kind of a fun little promotion we've got running. And without further ado, Erin, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessie. So tonight I'm going to be giving you an overview of the Critical Issues Summit. I'm going to give you a little context around our Critical Issues programs in general and how we came up with the idea for the summit. I'm going to talk about the program experience itself, which is divided into 2 parts. The first is Immersion Week and the second is Action Week. I'm going to explain a little bit about the $10,000 design challenge that Jessie mentioned. We're going to talk about the kinds of students we expect to participate, and then we'll talk a little bit about the scholarship application. Jessie, you can go to the next slide. So a few years ago, we introduced our Critical Issues programs, and the goal of those programs is for students to experience global issues through a local lens. We believe that students are much more likely to gain a passion and a deep understanding of how that issue plays out by talking to and learning from a local community who's facing that issue on a daily basis. And after running those critical issues programs, it was really obvious to us that they inspired students to want to make change. And that led us to think about intentionally pairing a critical issues program with a unique conference style event where students would build connections, build skills through hands-on workshops, and they'd hear from experts that are working on those issues in the field. And we wanted students to go home already armed with the skills and the network to begin making change and taking action on those issues right when they got home. So that's kind of how we came up with the idea for the summit. You can switch to the next one, Jesse. Thank you. So when we started designing critical issues programs in general, we began by thinking through the issues that we wanted to tackle. We consulted scholars and organizations working in the field. We spoke to them about the challenges that they believe the next generation of leaders will face. We took a look at the countries where we operate, the connections that we already have, and what makes the most sense to learn through travel. So, for example, cybersecurity, very important issue right now, but do I think we're teed up to deliver a really cool program about cybersecurity? Absolutely not. So for the summit, the process was much the same. We looked at what issues were pressing globally, what was most relevant to the region in Southeast Asia, what students were most interested in, and then what connections we had, what relationships we had to make that learning really come alive. So for example, right now, there's an enormous investment from China, 16 hydropower dams being built in Laos. So that country provides a really interesting case study into globalization and development. There's also been a huge investment by the Vietnamese government in education in the last decade. Students are performing surprisingly well on international standardized tests that rank national education systems, but there's still this really big discrepancy between the rural population and the urban population in Vietnam. So it's a really interesting place to look at what's going on in education. We've been running programs on the border of Myanmar and Thailand for many years, looking at the history of the conflict in Myanmar and the refugee crisis it created. And that was way before the Rohingya crisis even made the headlines. I should say now, though, that that program is most likely to predominantly run in Thailand, but it will look at issues that stem from Myanmar. So we're calling it Myanmar and Thailand. Then we have gender. We have had great success on our Andes Women's Education Initiative, which is another critical issues program in Peru. Students love it. They get a lot out of it. And Thailand is a really interesting place to talk about gender. Even though most people aren't really used to, analyzing the role of gender in their lives, there are a few NGOs and a few universities studying it, and we have a connection with the really interesting group of female social entrepreneurs, and we thought that they could provide a really interesting perspective to gender in Thailand. And then lastly, our connections in the floating villages communities in Cambodia and the impact that global climate change is having on fishing communities across Southeast Asia, really, but especially in Cambodia, made access to water a really easy pick for Cambodia. In a couple minutes, Jesse's going to explain about the enrollment process for how you pick each of these tracks, but I'm going to continue on and tell you a little bit more about the program experience itself. So like I said in the beginning, there's 2 weeks. It's a 2-week experience, but it's made out of 2 distinct 1-week sub-experiences, for lack of a better word. So the first week is Immersion week, and that's when we have those 5 different program tracks going on. They're designed so that students have a relatively, consistent experience. So of course there's some tweaks based on accommodation or travel time in different countries, but we want students comparing apples to apples when they're talking about their experiences. So we've put together a general framework that's going to remain pretty consistent across all 5 program tracks, no matter which country or which program you choose, which subject you choose. So during Immersion Week, as I said, students are going to get a global perspective of the issue and a local perspective. They're going to meet with local nonprofits, academic experts working on that issue. They're going to be really immersed in a local community wherever they are. So learning directly from the community members is what it's all about. Time with families or community leaders is really important learning time. And a lot of the learning comes through facilitated exchanges or facilitated dialogues with community members. Most of these programs have a homestay portion in the traditional sense, where students are paired with other students from their group and they're staying with multiple families. And so that provides a really, really cool immersive experience. And during Immersion Week, students are starting to engage in the design thinking process that they're going to learn more about in week 2. So the first stage of the design thinking process, or the first 2 stages rather, are to empathize and to define the problem. So that will be what they're working on in week 1 before they come together as a group for week 2. So, well, in week 1, like I said, the students are going to be separated into 5 separate groups. But in week 2, they're all going to come together to Udon Thani, Thailand, to our base house there for the second week of the summit, which is Action Week. So during Action Week, they're going to hear from really powerful speakers. They're going to participate in engaging workshops. We've got community organizers from around the world. We have master storytellers, entrepreneurs, innovators, not to mention development experts. Really, really awesome people who are so excited to be a part of this event. Some of the sessions are going to be kind of like a TED Talk style event. Some will be panels, some will be more hands-on workshops with the experts, some will be one-on-one partner meetings. We're going to keep it really lively, and there's going to be a lot of downtime for students just to get to know each other and hang out in a more casual environment and exchange ideas, build their network that way. About half of the programming during Action Week is going to be related to what we're calling the innovation curriculum. And for that portion, we've partnered with Give Back Hack. So Give Back Hack considers themselves a launch pad for innovation. They're the experts at running startup weekends or design thinking workshops, and they do it all over the world. Their work is really focused on social enterprise and social issues. So they're partnering with us to adapt their typical content to our context and to teenage learners, which is really, really cool. The innovation curriculum they're designing is mostly grounded in the principles of design thinking and lean startup methods. So these are concrete skills that all change makers are going to really benefit from having in their toolbox. And over the week, students are going to be working in teams to compete in a social innovation design challenge. And it culminates with a $10,000 design challenge prize, which is essentially seed funding to continue working on one of the issues. Jesse, if you turn the slide, I'll be able to give them a little bit more information on what we mean by this $10,000 social innovation design challenge. So, we know that teenagers are not going to solve huge, pressing challenges, huge issues like gender equity or global climate change in 1 week. And I know that it sends the wrong message when we present it that way. Part of the process that they will go through is actually figuring out how to be both realistic and humble about what they can do with the prize. So the judges are going to be scoring the innovation challenge based on how well it aligns with those lean startup principles that I mentioned and the design thinking framework. So for example, the students' project should be built around empathy for the experience of the stakeholders. Students' assumptions need to be validated with those stakeholders. They have to really clearly define a problem, and not a huge problem like gender equity. They're not going to solve gender equity or gender inequity rather as the problem. They need to be much more specific about what it is they're gearing their project towards. They need to propose a unique solution. They need to explain how their project will be executed towards creating an impact. Judges will look at kind of first takes on the project, maybe a first prototype or a first project iteration. And lastly, the judges are going to score the students on their plan to leverage that $10,000 of seed money towards the proposed solution. So following the summit, Give Back Hack, our partner, is going to continue to support the winning team by providing mentorship or in-kind resources, other kinds of support, especially in allocating that $10,000 in a responsible and impactful way. So it's not going to be only on the shoulders of the students to decide how they spend that $10,000, which I think is a little bit more of a responsible way to do it. I'd like to switch gears and talk now about the kinds of students that we hope will be involved. We're really, really excited about the possibility of bringing students together from diverse backgrounds, and we're aiming for more than 20 countries around the world represented. We think that having a diversity of ideas, a diversity of ways of thinking, a diversity of life experiences to draw from will create a much richer, a much more innovative learning environment for the students. So I think that's important in itself. But then when you think about the impact that we're going to be able to create when students take those skills and their ideas back to their home communities, we truly will have created, hopefully, a global network of young change makers. And that's a really powerful concept. The summit, I think, is a great fit for students who have already demonstrated a commitment to making change in their community, or students who are just interested in trying something new and excited to learn more about how to become change makers. Students interested in innovation, entrepreneurship, working in the startup world, careers in development, those students would certainly get a lot out of it. I would say budding scientists, environmentalists, researchers, health practitioners even. I think the list goes on. And we are using our network to reach out to different schools and organizations working with youth throughout the world to make sure that the opportunity is widely broadcast. But we could really use your help here too. So if you have connections in places outside of where Rustic operates or outside of where we often recruit students, get students from, please send them information about the summit or connect them with us. I think the more the merrier, the more diversity of perspectives, the better. And in service of that idea, we're committed to having local students from Southeast Asia on the programs as well. So we've reserved at least we've reserved spots for at least 2 students from Thailand, 2 students from Myanmar, 2 students from Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos on those programs. So this is an awesome opportunity for the visiting students to get a more local perspective, but it's also an awesome way for students in the region to become experts on the issues that are affecting their communities. So we already have 5 countries represented in the signups, and we'll get at least 5 more from those Southeast Asian students. So we're well on our way, I think, to those 20 countries represented. And in fact, I might want to shoot for 30 now. A quick note for students who live outside of the United States, our programs are conducted in English, and especially this one, I would say that English competency is a requirement. So just keep that in mind for when you're either applying or enrolling or spreading this information to other families or other students. So in terms of scholarships, we want to make this as accessible as possible to the most promising change makers. We are providing 25 full scholarships, which includes airfare for the summit. So this is just one way that we're going to ensure that we have that diversity of perspectives represented. So the application is already open. It closes January 17th, and we're hoping to notify recipients pretty quickly around February 5th. The application itself is intentionally challenging, I would say. It asks students 4 short reflection questions. It asks them to upload a short video of themselves talking about an important global issue. And we ask students to share with us a creative sample, though what that is and what they share is entirely up to the students. We've created a review team that's both internal and external reviewers who are going to help us allocate those 25 full scholarships. And we are 100% committed to those 25 full scholarships. But if we find ourselves in a position to be able to offer additional scholarships, we're going to draw from that same application pool. So please submit your application there. On the screen, you can see rusticsummit.com/scholarships. That's where you can head for more information and to apply for one. And again, that deadline is January the 17th. So coming up here pretty quickly after the holidays. I'm going to pass it back over to Jessie to talk through the enrollment process, but I'll be sticking around to answer questions about the summit at the end. So thank you so much for joining again.
Yeah, and actually, Erin, while we have you talking about scholarships, we did get a quick question about the scholarship application process. They asked, should the application be filled generally or in the lens of the critical issue that we are interested in?
Sorry, I muted myself. I've gotten this question a couple times, and I'll tell you how I've answered it. We are looking for both students with a very specific passion about one of the issues, because that always contributes to a group, to have that one student who already has some background knowledge or some passion about, water issues, for example, or gender issues. That being said, we're also really looking for students who are interested in that new experience and up for anything. And like I said, the experience itself, save for the issue that you're talking about of week 1, is pretty similar. So my answer is, if you are that student who is very passionate, don't be afraid to tell us that. In fact, please do tell us that, because I think your passion will come through. If you're the student who doesn't yet have a passion for one of these issues, you're like myself in high school, and I would rather you be authentic about that on the application than try to fake your interest in something that you don't know that much about. So I would say the best answer is to be as truthful as you can and explain why you are the way you are, why you're interested in the one, or why you're open to any of them.
Great answer. And I will actually show you in the process of how to enroll, how you can actually indicate which track you're most interested in. I'm actually going to get out here and head over to the Rustic Pathways website for a moment. Make that a little bit bigger. We did provide a couple URLs there on your screen, but I will also just show you how to navigate the website in case you want to come back and check out this information. If you click the menu in the top right corner, we have all of our countries here, our programs listed. Underneath the How It Works section, you can actually go down to the scholarships page, and there will be a link to go to the critical issues scholarship there as well. I also find program types a really useful link to point out, because there not only can you find all of our critical issues programs if you're interested in checking those out. The summit will be listed there as well, in addition to all different types of programs, and you can explore by personality too if you do have that real passion in a particular issue like environmentalism or working with kids, future educators, that kind of thing. You can find it here, and it kind of breaks it down into neater little categories so you don't have to explore all 100 programs at the same time. It can be a little overwhelming. When you are ready and you're ready to either submit your scholarship application or your application for the program itself, you're going to click here, which is the Enroll Now button. It will take you to a page. You're going to read some terms of the application process, and then the application itself will pop up. And it's a pretty straightforward application. There's maybe 6 or 7 pages. The first page is students' information, second one for parents, so it's not too overwhelming. It may take a second to load just because I'm streaming my computer, but there will be a section when you get to the area where you will select your program. You'll select your country and your program, and right there is going to be a text box that's called Special Instructions, and that's where we actually recommend that you put your first, second, maybe third choice of track, we are going to assign the tracks on a first come, first served basis. That being said, if you can put your first, second, and third favorites, we'll try to place you in your first whenever possible. And again, we do encourage students to be flexible and hopefully open to a couple of those different tracks so you can mix and match and learn something new. Head back over here. And I think now we have some time for questions and answers. And I haven't seen too many questions come in. So at this point, if you want to send your questions into the questions and answer section, Erin can get to them.
Yeah, Jesse, you just had one more about the scholarship application. I think I can probably answer it. If we're filling out a scholarship application, do we need to fill out the general application for the summit as well, or is it the same one? So we actually don't have an application to our typical Rustic Pathways programs. This is the only one, in fact, that has an application this year. So we have an enrollment process where you can enroll on the program. I would say it's actually up to you. If you think that you won't travel if you don't get the scholarship, you might want to wait and see if you get the scholarship. Although you can cancel for a 100% money back guarantee up to March 1st. So if you'd like to enroll in order to guarantee your spot on one of those tracks, if you are that student that has that burning passion to be on the globalization and development trip in Laos, that might be one way to handle it. But you're more than welcome just to apply to the scholarship application, wait and see how that goes, and then make your decision after February 5th once we let you know about our decision.
Yeah. Yes. So there's the Critical Issues Summit scholarship information right here. You can click here to read more about the summit, and then here to read more about the application process itself. It's pretty thorough, so I definitely recommend reading through that to make sure that that's what you are getting yourself into. And all the deadlines are listed here, so that's a really good resource to take a look at. All right. Great questions. We have a question about dietary restrictions, Erin. If you'd like to, I'll make a note quickly on most of our programs. We are able to handle most dietary needs. It is a little bit specific per program and per country. So there are some things like peanut allergies in Thailand that we want to be really careful with, and we may not recommend a student travel in Thailand if they have a severe peanut allergy. So this is something where, again, Erin, you can kind of speak directly to the summit, but we may want to have you give us a call and we can speak with you directly about your specific dietary needs.
Yeah, that is absolutely the case about Thailand, but because we are doing the summit the second week of the summit at our base house, we control the food there. So students with peanut allergies are welcome to participate, although Laos may be another place. I'm thinking about fish and seafood allergies are a little bit tough. So again, I would want to call and have somebody on the medical team. If you have an anaphylactic allergy to seafood or peanuts, it's probably a better conversation specifically about your needs than a general answer here. But
yeah, we do have a dedicated medical.
Vegan, vegetarian, no pork, no, all of those kinds of things we can accommodate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do have a dedicated medical director and medical screener. So we would just probably connect your family with them and we can kind of talk through your specific needs. All right, any other questions coming in? I'll give everyone another minute to type. And if not, we hope to see you in 2019. Again, if any other questions weren't covered, or if you have questions about our general programming, please do give us a call. We love talking through those. We can help you kind of walk through the scholarship process or compare and contrasting other critical issues programs, whatever your needs.
Yeah. If my excitement didn't come across enough when I was speaking slightly more scripted, I would just like to end by saying that I have had the opportunity to work on a lot of really wonderful things over the years at Rustic, and this is honestly one of the things that I am most excited about. I think it's something new and something different, and I feel very confident in the experience that we're putting together. So if you're hesitating about whether to do it, I would 100% give you my, my word that we're doing everything we can behind the scenes to make sure that we knock this one out of the park. And I think it's going to be really fantastic.
We have two more questions about the scholarship, Erin. First of all, do you have any specific tips for the scholarship application process itself, besides being your authentic, true self? And then how many people do you expect to apply for the scholarship? And this is, I know that's a hard one.
Sure. So in terms of the first question, specific tips, obviously be your authentic self. Please don't have your parents or someone else do it. It's usually pretty obvious when that happens, although it's really important to proofread. So we are not grading on grammar, but a polished application where it's very clear that you've thought about what you've said, what you want to say, and that you articulate yourself clearly is important. I think the future challenges video is probably the thing that I've seen make or break students' applications the most often. And so it definitely does not have to be well produced. You can sit in front of a computer like I am right now and hit record on the photo booth, and that is exactly what we're looking for. But the way that you talk about that issue and why you chose that issue and why it's important to you is important. And I think it's not that we weight that much more than the other questions, but when you see somebody's face and you hear them talking about it, it just convinces us one way or another, even if we don't mean it to. So I would say spend some time there. And then in terms of applying for the scholarship, we can't say this year, because we've never done 25 full scholarships to a program in Southeast Asia. What I can compare it with is our 2 by invitation only programs, which are a little bit different because for the by invitation only program, it was the only way to travel on that program that year was to get the scholarship. You couldn't sign up on your own and pay for it like you can with the summit. So it may affect the numbers, but last year, the number of students that applied was near 400 or 450 for a program that we had around 12 spots. And so if you do the math, it's as competitive as the top Ivy League schools. So we're not messing around here, but you also have nothing to lose. Like I said, if we have money left over, we might give away some partial scholarships. So, it is going to be competitive. You need to spend time. It will be very obvious if you haven't, but it's really worth your time. And I think it's absolutely worth a shot.
Yeah, awesome. And there's 2 more tips that I usually give for our service scholarships in general. One is that there's no benefit to getting your application in before someone else. We're going to take all of the applications that come in by the deadline and review them all together. So do take your time. If you get it in the last minute, that's okay, because it's going to be considered at the exact same time as everybody else's. Often if you do take your time and take as much time as possible, it's going to shine above the rest. And the other tip I usually give students is just to demonstrate your dedication to service in general. So oftentimes, some of the students that receive these scholarships, they're not only looking at this as an experience to travel and to learn in that moment, but they're also showing that they will bring this back and they're dedicated to service in their own community just as much as they are abroad. So that's something to kind of keep in mind, that this is something we want you to bring back with you, and we want you, if you can, to show a demonstrated dedication to service in your own communities already.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, there's obviously some selfish reasons to want to come on the program. It's going to be a wonderful experience. But if you can explain what you think the Critical Issues Summit would allow you to do in the future, and especially if you can explain how it might affect your local community or your school community or your family even, I think that would be really powerful. And in fact, there's one question that sort of tees you up to do that. So I appreciate you pointing that out, Jessie.
Aaron, it looks like there's a couple more questions coming in. Can you speak to what aspects you're looking for in the creative sample portion?
Sure. So the creative sample is intended to help us get a more holistic understanding of who the student is. The essay questions, we try to make them not very normal or typical essay questions. It's not the kind of thing you would have on a test or anything, but we find that the creative sample allows students that might not typically excel in like a written format to show us what they can do. So if there's a super passionate photographer, we've had photographers, like one of the students who traveled with us last year or the year before, I can't remember, on the by invitation only program, was an incredible photographer. And as soon as I looked at his portfolio, I was like blown away and gave him top marks for that portion of the my scoring process. And there's really no right or wrong answer. I've seen really compelling scrapbooks that were made for somebody's grandma for their 90th birthday that showed how much this person cared about their grandmother and their relationship with their family. I've seen the photography thing. I've seen an example of a dance that somebody choreographed. It's all kinds of things. So there's really no right or wrong answers. We have had a lot of submissions that were academic work. So, a paper from a class or something like that. We don't have a ton of time to read like a 5-page paper that you submitted for your government class. So if you do have something that you're really passionate about, that's a written sample, what I would recommend is giving us like a little teaser about what we're looking at and kind of why it matters. Like, why are you giving us a paper that you wrote for your government class as your creative sample? I hope that helps give you some ideas of what we might be looking for.
And Erin, what are some of the main values that a student should show in their application?
I think openness to new ideas and experiences is huge. We want students who are looking for that diversity of perspectives and are excited to learn from a really diverse group of learners, 20 or 30 countries represented. We're excited for students who are wanting to build that network and, like we were talking about before, take this experience and do something with it. So somebody who shows some commitments to whether it's a service project or something else, a sports team or something that we know you're the kind of person who's really gonna be able to juggle. You've got this 10 grand to spend with the group of 4 other kids who live in 4 different countries, and you're also in your classes, like, how convince us that you can handle that, but that you're not, maybe too busy to do it. We're also kind of thinking like, all right, if this kid has, already has a million different camps and experiences and like a billion things on their resume already, how are they going to fit this in? Is this just another line on their resume? Talk to us about why this experience. Rustic Pathways has 100 programs. Why this one? Or why Rustic Pathways and the Critical Issues Summit over any other thing that you could be doing with your time all summer?
Super, super helpful. I don't see any other questions coming in. And again,
Okay.
You're always welcome to give us a call, but thank you so much for your time, Erin. Thank you everybody who's joined us this evening, and we hope to see your applications in soon.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.